Rox from Tosset's Wild Apothecary. Welcome to my wild food and herb walk. I'm going to talk about foods and medicines, things that are easy for the beginner to identify and to find. The first one is one of my favourites, and it's an elder tree. So the elder tree, you'll see that it's got quite a gnarly bark and gnarly branches. Often has this moss growing all over it. If we look at the leaves, it tends to have 5 or 7 leaflets, and they're arranged in pairs with one at the top. They have this serrated edge that comes to a point. That's the leaf. Earlier on in the year, they have these kind of umbel shapes of white flowers, and those white flowers, the elder flowers, they point upwards, and you think of them as working with the upper respiratory tract to clear colds, flus and fevers, and also for hay fever. They're great for using to make with syrups and champagnes. They have a very nice delicate flavour, and when you're picking them, you're trying to pick them on a dry day because they tend to retain a lot of moisture, which is not great for if you want to make dried elder flowers, which to use as a tea or to use in ointments. Also, it tends to dilute the medicine, and it dilutes a lot of the wild yeasts on it for when you're making your champagne. So as you go through the season, they start to become green and develop these berries. These are not edible at the moment. You're waiting until later on when they start to change to red and then to black. And when all of the berries are facing down, it starts to go down and it starts to go black and they become juicy and heavy. That's when you're picking them, and you're not eating them raw, you're going to cook them, and you're always eating them cooked. So you can make things like syrups and jams and oxymels, but you're always cooking them. So the berries are antiviral. There's been a lot of research into the elderberries. They are known to inhibit the reproduction and replication of viruses, and they stop the virus from being able to actually attack our cells. They're high in antioxidants and flavonoids, and they help to regulate the immune system. They're also high in vitamin B and C, and these nice black juicy bloody colour berries are thought to build the blood. So then we're looking down here and we are seeing some nettles. So nettles, you can pick them throughout the year depending on what they're doing. So this one here is not ready for you to pick the leaves because it has now gone into seed. So if you're looking at nettle, come over to look at these ones because they're easier to show you. That the leaves are in opposite pairs that help them to collect as much sunlight as possible because they often grow in quite dark woodlands. They have very serrated edges that come to a point, and they have these tiny little hairs on them which are like needles, which is how it's got its name. And these little tiny hairs are filled with a cocktail of chemicals which gets injected into you, which what causes the sting and the irritation. At this point, there's no flowers, no seeds. At this point, you can pick these top leaves of the nettle, and you can use them in pestos, in spinach, as a vegetable, in pies, all sorts of things. At this time of year, you'll find that they have these seeds, and this one is full of seeds. It's ready to be harvested. The seeds are hanging down. They're very plump and they're green, and they kind of have this kind of bishop hat shape. The seeds are thought of as an adrenal tonic. They stimulate the neurotransmitters. They release epinephrine and serotonin, so they help to regulate the mood, help with sleep. They help with low energy. They help to boost your immune system. They also have high in essential fatty acids and anti-inflammatory. So the Romans used to use the seeds along with rosemary to make an ointment, which they then put onto the small joints to help with pain and inflammation. So here's an example of the flowers. You're not doing anything with this one. This one you're just watching because you're not using the flowers. They're not ready. You're not using the leaves because it's flowering. So the nettle has got loads and loads of uses. It's known to be full of vitamins and minerals and loads of iron and potassium and calcium. You can use it as a dye, and this stem has a really strong fibre which has been used throughout the centuries to make string and clothes. And if you see a patch of nettles where there is nothing else, you'll know that it's a sign of nitrogen in the soil, and it also will show you then that this is where somebody's been living or where they've been keeping their animals. So if you do get a nettle sting, one thing you can do is go and find a plantain leaf, and this is Ribwort plantain. If you squash this and crush it up, you get a green juice from it, and the green juice is very soothing for nettle stings, insect bites, and it's also good for helping heal wounds and stopping bleeding. You'll notice that it has a nice long leaf, and it has these really tough string inside it, and you can use this as an antiseptic dental floss. I don't have one to show you, but they get these long stems with seed flower heads on top, and you can eat the flower head and it tastes a little bit mushroomy. You'd pick them when the stems are still bendy and the flower heads and the seeds are brown, and when you break them, they are green still inside. So that's plantain. So this plant you'll find growing in grasslands along paths and at the edges of farm gates. This is red clover. If you have a look at the leaves, you can see they have 3 leaves, and they have this little white arrow on each of the leaves. Leaves, when they're young like this, can be used as a vegetable, and the flowers are made up of lots and lots of little tiny flowers, and these can be used as a tea. They make a lovely nice sweet honey flavour. You can use them in panna cottas, in syrups, in lemonade. They're thought to be high in vitamin A, C, E and K, lots of protein, antioxidants and minerals. And they used to make an infusion with this red clover and honey to help with coughs. And you can also use a strong tea to help with sore throats and mouth ulcers. So that's red clover. So another plant that you'll find everywhere, this is yarrow. You can tell yarrow by these fluffy leaves. They feel nice and soft. So it's a hemostatic, it stops internal and external bleeding. It works amazingly if you have a nosebleed. You can roll up the leaf and stick it up your nose and it stops nosebleeds immediately. These are the flowers. So if you look, each one of these, you'll see the petals around there, but each one is made up of hundreds of little tiny flowers in its centre. So it's a member of the daisy family. You get them in this white colour, but also in that kind of pink variation. If you see any other colours, they won't have the medicinal properties and they're cultivated. So yarrow helps to increase sweating, and it aids with the elimination of viruses. It's used around the world to deal with common infections. It improves your circulation, increases the vigour in the toe, and it's also aromatic bitter, so it helps with your digestive function. So it's a nice bitter to include in your food. You can use the flowers as a tea, and you can include the leaves in your food, in your salads or something. And the final plant I'm going to show you today is rosebay willow herb. You'll find this growing all the way along railway tracks. You find masses of it, and you can use it and harvest it all year round. So at different stages, you can use the big older leaves for teas. You can ferment them, roll them and ferment them and dry them, or you can just dry them, use them as teas. You can use the young new shoots cooked like asparagus. You can use the young stems and leaves and lightly steam them like a vegetable. You can use the flowers, putting them into salads or making a nice syrup from them. The plant is said to be rich in vitamins and minerals and has 90 times more vitamin A and 4 times more vitamin C than oranges. So to ID it, if you look at the leaves, they're smooth, they come to a point, they have this red vein in the centre, and actually on this one the stem has a red line running down up and along it, and they get these really pretty pink flowers. You'll see them all over the place. That's rosebay willow herb. So thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed that, hope you'll get to go out and do some foraging. Even if you don't pick anything, just look at the plants, watch them throughout the season. Once you get to know them, try them out to see which ones you enjoy.